Did you move to the US because you were just ready for some, I mean, because that's a huge jump, right? I have a friend who's a makeup artist who was working with a celebrity, and the celebrity's UK full-time job kind of stopped. And so there was an opportunity for, him to come and be a part of her team. So was that like something for you, or were you just like, I'm just going to the US just because like different
No,
opportunities, different,
no.
or
In the midst of all that happening, I was on my request to still be of service to the salon. At this point, by the
mm,
time I'd met Lupita, I'd had a clientele that I'd built over almost 12 to 14
mm,
years that I'd
yeah,
been doing every week. And so I've grown up with all these amazing people, had babies, got done their weddings, and I was set up in the UK. I had no means of moving, but everyone knew that I was destined for other stuff. And in
right.
the premise of that, I started to recognize that there was a huge gap in the market where products were concerned, and my clients would be like, "Oh, this product doesn't work for me when I use it at home," and I was like, "Well, I used it on you in the salon, so how are you not having the same effects that I'm not having?"
Right.
And then I started to realize there was a big disconnect with product application, with product innovation, and products that are accessible in the right locations to these clients. You got to remember, I was also in central London, which isn't the prime hotspot for people of color to walk and
Hmm.
get their hair done. And
Right.
so what tends to happen is all these great salons that were great at doing Afro kinky curly hair were primarily in the suburb areas. And so these women that would come into central London were affluent people,
Hmm.
that wanted to be serviced as well, but there wasn't product to meet that needs. And so I went on a request to launch a product line, and the chemistry and formulation of all that took me a couple of years to do so. And at the point where I was granted an investment, it was the same time that an agent had said, "I will sign you, and the investment will." The agent said, "I'll sign you, but you need to move to LA." The investment came from my
Ah,
product company. "I'll invest in you, but you need to move to LA." Literally within 48
oh,
within
everything was
48
pointing.
hours
Yeah.
of meeting and talking with people. So I was like, okay, we're going to LA. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't really, and at this point, I had had so many requests from a lot of artists now that are my clients, requests for me to work in America, but everyone thought I was based in the US and I wasn't. And because of the
Ah,
work that I was doing for Lapida and some other clients, I had requests coming day to day, like Amanda Stenberg was requesting way back when. And
yeah.
so by the time that these people learned that I was available in LA, it just became, it was a little bit overwhelming, because I came here and I was granted work straight away, which does not happen
Hmm.
normally. But it also, for me, said a lot about what we need to do and be better at over here, and what we need
Yeah.
to do and be better about as a nation, as hairdressers globally. There was this big urgency for better styling and the upkeep of managing natural curly hair in its state that would be presentable for media,
Yeah.
not just at home, where we know there are salons that have been doing that since day back. But what about the
Exactly.
red
And
carpet?
stylists,
The red
right.
carpet, yes, ma'am. And
Yeah.
so,
So I'd love
so
to add to
that,
that. Yeah, I was like, I need to add to that because I had been out of. I don't know when you came, and we'll get to that when you came, but I had been out of doing freelance full time by that point. And my mission was always to like bring people in, bring people in. I can't do this job. Let me bring a friend in. And so the agents that I had, their hair department grew because I was always bringing in friends to work on jobs with me, and then eventually just pass the jobs on because I'm like, okay, I'm doing this now, and stuff like that. And I remember getting a call from an agent that I had, and when I say a part-time agent, it was part-time. That was like, Tippi, I need a list of stylists because we were getting so many requests to work with women of color. And I'm just like, why now? Like there should have always there, I know there have always been requests, but you weren't putting people on it who knew what the heck they were doing. And now actresses and musicians and A-listers know, and they've always known, but I feel like with the red carpet, like just with the movement period, I just feel like people who are walking the red carpet and actresses on TV, they felt more vindicated in their um, in their request to make sure that they had someone who was an expert with natural textured hair. Because before, a lot of people were just like, well, I'm on this film. There's someone who doesn't really know how to do my hair, and I might just have to go get it done before I come to set. And, then all of a sudden there was this switch where it's just like, no, I'm on the set. You bring in someone who knows how to do my hair, And so that was this huge shift. And I'd say this probably happened about, or at least from my perspective, probably about 2 or 3 years ago, where it was just like the red carpets were on fire and agencies couldn't get enough artists that were experts in natural textured hair. And it was just, like I even see there's an agency now that is having an open casting almost for for artists, not specifically for naturally textured hair, but I feel like, just I don't remember major agencies having open castings. I think it's fantastic because a lot of artists, they may not have the portfolios, they may not have, the awards, they may not have all the things that the support that they do excellent work because it's just not the space they've been in. They've been salon stylists for so long. So I love that now that agencies are making it their mission to fully diversify their lineup, if you will.
I mean, look, this is a whole different topic and conversation to talk about. We could go on along, but what I will say is that, there has always been people available to be of service to these particular hair textures. There's been a lot of crippling mindsets around what that person should look like and what they should have done to be able to qualify them in their eyes to be able to do the job in hand.
Right.
And that really played heavily into a lot of people like ourselves not being granted the opportunity. And so by the time that I had landed a partnership with Lupita, I feel like she became one of the poster people for champion natural hair. Was she the first? No, she was not. There were many people that had been doing it before her, but she damn well was one of the first people that did it on the level that she did it, in the mainstream that she did it, by aligning herself with the contracts that she aligned herself with, and remained consistent with her texture. The amount of covers that we were able to do, whether you agree with doing 1 or 2 covers with these big publications, everything that she has presented herself on, her hair has been in its natural state, which very little people can claim to have been a part of that relationship. So I think that definitely speaks to some of the sort of awakening around that it's okay, because a lot of people for her saw her beauty before they saw her hair, but was so disconnected and didn't realize a big part of her beauty is her hair as well.
Hair, right?
And so it was just so interesting that people were trying to disconnect them versus just looking at her for who she is, what you want her to be. And that sometimes, still consistently plays quite heavy when we're on shoots and like, oh, we just want her hair to be short because she's so beautiful. It's like,
no.
That you don't say that to a girl that's got long blonde hair to cut it off because we just want her.
We just want it to be straight and flat because that's what it is. No,
right.
we're not doing that.
All these microaggressions that still flow in. Whilst I still believe they're leading with good intention, but there's just such a deep loss of culture understanding and a loss and a huge and a currency of microaggressions that people are unaware of, that they're a part of. And what has happened for me is that most people are not recognizing what they don't know and how to ask about that. And so they assume that they are being kind and we should be grateful. So they're just going to spew out this language that we should be then grateful for. And unfortunately, I was like, no.
Like, I don't play that one.
I'm not sure that this is what you're trying to say, but let me help you understand very quickly. This is what we're not going to do. And so in the quest of that, I become, very comfortable in American, over here in America. America's treated me very well. I've been very grateful and I'm so deeply appreciative of the clients and friendships that I've been able to develop. I'm able to do that along with my hair care line that is really the emphasis of trying to unite a relationship with hair versus culture and hair, because a
Hmm.
lot of people tend to lead with race. Whilst it's a big
Right.
part of who you are, absolutely, but anyone and everyone can have all different hair textures. And
Exactly.
so I've always led with the idea that let's look after your hair and talk about you and your wellness. What does that look like? And then
Right.
obviously culture will come into that. But if you just lead with the conversation of hair, we're all included in that conversation. And so that's what
Exactly.
inclusivity looks like. That's what visibility looks like. And these are things that I think are over missed or overlooked, because we're trying to be for a culture versus
Yeah.
for human.
For a cause.
And when
Right.
we
Exactly.
right, and so when we can unite through pain, which we've all experienced somehow to some degree, especially through hair, we can better understand our needs, and we can better prepare and be of service for you. And that's what I hope to continue to achieve with the Vernon François collection. And no, I don't have everything right. I also don't want to have everything right. I want to keep learning.
Yeah.
Perfection doesn't exist, but I want to really continue to elevate the consumer's needs through package innovation, and elevate with integration of understanding how to be better at doing what I love to do.
Wow, Vernon, that was so much
I
in
know.
a beautiful ball. No, I mean, it was so much in such a beautiful ball. And I think that you nailed so many things and wrapped it up so eloquently. So thank you for that. So we are almost out of time.
I know
And
we could talk.
so
I didn't even get into half of this
I,
stuff.
I
We could
think
talk
I
for.
know. I feel like we're going to have a volume two. So we're going to do the volume two after I watch Edward Scissorhands. So that for sure
Oh
is going to happen.
yeah, you have
Yeah.
to watch Edward Scissorhand and RoboCop. And I say
Okay.
RoboCop because of my dyslexia and how the road, how Arnold Schwarzenegger reads people, and he
Yeah.
looks you up and down and go. It's how I read people.
That's how you,
It's,
okay.
it's
All
it's
right.
how I read people, and it was those two movies really helped me feel present and heard and listened
Okay.
to. I'll leave it at that, and then we can dive
Okay.
into it.
Okay. Awesome. Well, then I look forward to volume two. All right. So there's a couple of questions that I ask before we
Yeah.
wrap it up. One is just let me know what trends or what yeah, I'm gonna go with the word trend. What trends are you loving currently in the hair space?
I don't know. It's funny you say trends because I actually stopped responding to interview requests that keep asking me for trends.
It,
Once again, remember, I'm going back to that rebellious child in the college, and
yeah.
you're not
Um,
following
hold on.
the norm. Because I'm like, what's a trend? If something looks good on you, that's the trend. And
Yeah.
and so I've never really gone, this is what you should look out for. Because what you do see is a lot of people trying to be a trend, and it looks really uncomfortable. And so what I will say that I've noticed, and we've
What are
discussed it
you loving
already.
then? What are you
Well,
loving
yeah,
currently?
what I've noticed is that a lot of people are finding the space to love their natural texture and explore that. And
Hmm.
whatever that looks like, that has been so overwhelming and joyous to bear witness to,
Hmm.
especially given the time that we've been with COVID-19, and we've been in self-isolation. People have now let themselves go, which is basically for me blossom.
Yeah.
And people
Yeah.
are now allowing themselves to see what lies beneath this idea that you thought you needed to portray, and it's your beauty. And so it's been really beautiful to watch people just find comfort in their true identity in whatever
Right.
capacity that is. And that's been really beautiful to bear witness to, whether it's color, whether your hair is gray, whether it's big, whether it's short. Some people have cut their hair off. And so I've been watching how this time that we're living in is really presented an opportunity for people to find their beauty. That's been
I
really
love that.
remarkable.
I love that. So, in that very same vein, what is it that you have been seeing that you'd like to see go away?
Well, I think what is happening is that we are realizing that we are more than our hair, first of all. And people that do have kinky, curly hair textures, our hair is becoming more versatile in its wearability. And so I think what I've noticed is that the bigger corporations and the bigger brands are now starting to be held accountable for their unwillingness to be a part of this conversation. And
Hmm.
now they're actually actively participating in trying to make a difference.
Yeah.
Would I like them to do more? Absolutely. Would I like them
Yeah.
to apologize? Yes, I would. But let's take one step at a time. They're realizing that actually this is a consumer that's always been around. And so now you will see with these notable brands and big product lines actually now having products for all hair textures and
Hmm.
including. And so
Hmm.
I like that is surging and it is happening, and retailers are now open to acquiring that, but there's still a long way to go in terms of the aisles and how they're labeling them and stuff like that. But that
Yes,
will be a different
absolutely.
conversation.
Yeah.
But that is
And,
happening.
exactly. And kind of back to that question, that to that point of when they bring people to the table that they're actually speaking to, then
Mm,
those nuances will get fixed. But when you don't have the people that you're speaking to at the table, then it'll always be
mm,
just up in the air. So I've got two
mm.
more questions for you. What advice would you give to new stylists out there that want to follow in your professional footsteps?
I mean, there's a lot of advice, but I think it's the, the, the fact that I'm even pausing to think about this is
Hmm.
something we don't do often. And I think
Hmm.
one of the things that I've learned when working with young, amazing artists is sometimes they can find you quite overwhelming and bearing to work with because this is idealization around you. And
Hmm.
you have to remember as a human, if there's at any one point that you feel uncomfortable, please let the other person know, because you can often there's a misunderstanding around where someone feels like they're being loving and being tough love to making
Hmm.
someone feel uncomfortable. So if there's at any one point as a youngin, as an adult, where you feel uncomfortable in any scenario, find strength to communicate it because it can be a
Hmm.
breaking point and an opportunity lost for growth.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's lessons in everything. So that is an incredibly great point. Um,
Mm.
Vernon, we always end the show with me asking a question. It's the very same question, and I just want you to finish the sentence. Okay. So the sentence is, we are all.
Worthy of being seen.
I love that. And you guys heard that here from the mouth of Vernon Francois. We are all worthy of being seen. And I see you, friend. So thank
I got
you.
goosebumps. That was cute.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I truly appreciated this conversation. We are fairly new to each other, and I'm getting to know you. So I greatly thank you for spending the time to not only let me get to know you a bit more, but all the viewers of Behind the Beauty. So let's give it up again for Vernon Francois. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you all for sticking with us through Behind the Beauty. Until next time.